Bill Caskey, live today. I want to welcome you. I do this almost every day for the last week or so. I'm going to continue to do it and share with you some, hopefully some nuggets that you can use, some ideas, some hacks, some strategies, some tips, some mechanics, some language. You just never know where this little mind-to-mind goes when the camera goes on. And we have a topic like today's topic, which is this personal brand stuff a bunch of hooey? Hooey is an old word for you know what. Is it a bunch of BS, a bunch of crap? Or is it a game-changing strategy for you? And what I hope to do today is to help you answer that question. I can't answer it for you, but I can help you answer it for yourself. Before we start, I've got a quick gift I want to give to you. Now, if you'll go to billcaskey.com/game changer, you can get access to the Sales Game Changer Guide. It's 10 strategies that I believe, now I wrote it, so of course I believe it, but I think it'll really change your business life and your sales life. There's also, you can't see this down here, but inside this guide, there are some videos. There are 3 training videos that correspond to 3 of the 10 strategies that I think they're really good. So again, if you're inclined to be interested in growing your skills and working on yourself, that's perfect. If you're not, don't bother. It will be useless to you if you're not interested in changing or growing. And I know some people are, some people aren't. So what is this whole thing with personal brand? We hear it a lot. We read about it. I just wrote an article on LinkedIn. In fact, if you're not linked to me, make sure you go so you can read the article. I'm not sure if you can read the article if you're not linked to me, but go ahead, I'll accept. And there's an article there, and I titled it cleverly, no, it's not clever, 6 reasons you should develop your personal brand and 1 reason you should not. There is 1 reason you should not develop your personal brand. I'll tell you what that is in the article. I'm not going to get into that today. What I want to do today is talk about the value of personal brand. You know, you used to hear this statistic that we get 17,000 messages a day from everything from billboards to in our car to people calling us, and now with the web and social media, I'm sure it's 160,000 a day. But anyway, it's an enormous number of touches a day. And we've developed this, in fact, it's called the reticular activating system, that's designed to help us stay away from that stuff and to not pay attention to everything. The brain really, let me get out of my email here. This is annoying. The brain is a unique creature in that it helps us filter out a lot of that stuff, so we don't pay attention to it. So when we say you got a 50,000 message a day, we don't see 99% of them because they're irrelevant to us. But the question I have for you is, if you build your personal brand, does it help your relevancy with your customer? And that's what I want to get into a little bit today. The fact is that you are unique. Maybe there's not another person like you. Maybe that's a good thing. In my case, it's probably good there's not another Bill Caskey. But you may have a team of 20 people. You may be a sales manager or a CEO. And you may say, you know what? I want more people to do this. I want to replicate Bill or Kathy or Sue. And so the fact is that we are unique, but also the fact is that we bring unique value. So that's a good thing that we're unique. Your experiences, your perspective, your wisdom, your ability, your capability, your skill sets, your style, your vibe is all very unique to you. And that's what I think a personal brand and a brand strategy, if you will, can help you with. Now, sometimes it just doesn't work. Like if I'm with Microsoft may say, oh, no, we're not letting anybody blog. We're not letting anybody do this or that or have a podcast. Well, that's okay, but you have a personal brand if you're on LinkedIn. You have a personal brand if you're on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram or on YouTube or on any of the platforms. You have a personal brand. You may not have crafted it very carefully. You may not be intentional about it, but you have one. If I go to your LinkedIn page, for example, and I see your picture there, the round picture, but I see no banner at all behind it, it's just the LinkedIn default where it has all those little lines, that tells me something about you. Not that you're a bad person, just that you don't care much about LinkedIn. You haven't finished that job. You don't look at LinkedIn as a branding platform. It's not a judgment. I'm just telling you how people think. And as CEOs and a lot of clients get together and we say the same thing. When someone doesn't have their LinkedIn profile completed, same with Facebook, if you look like you're half-hatched, or as I said yesterday, half-assed, if you look that way, then the question is, well, what brand message does that send? And I don't think it sends a good one. So the fact is, you're unique. You have all these platforms. You do have a brand. If you're out speaking, you have a brand. If you're calling on people, you have a brand. You have a reputation. Now let's define what brand is, and I did this in this LinkedIn article. And as I said, you can go read it. It's about 1,000, probably 750 words, and it's got 6 points to it. But I say in here, what is a brand? A brand is the perception the market has of your value, of your generosity, and of your goodwill. So are you a generous person? Do you bring value to the market? That's one of the things that the market says, yeah, that person has a good brand. So I want to give you a couple things today, that reasons that I think you should really consider doing this. And doing this just simply means become more mindful of your brand on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on all the social platforms. And even when you show up, whether it means the apparel you wear, the kinds of questions you ask, is your brand all about pitching and persuading and talking and sales? Is it about defending, and is it in your face? Is that your brand? And it may be. And that may not be a bad brand for you. Maybe that's who you are. Now, I do think that brand will get you in trouble. And if that's your reputation as some kind of a sales weasel or sales sleazel or whatever, then I think that's not good. So if you want to start to change yourself and change the brand, and by the way, I don't think you just change the brand and the image. I think you have to change yourself, because then it's just a shill. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to start somewhere. So here are 3 things that I think are good. And I had an experience with one of my clients. His name is Mike. He's in the hospital business, and he calls on hospitals and clinics, and he's out of the Chicagoland area. And he started doing videos on LinkedIn about, well, probably 6 months ago. And he does at least 1 or 2 per week. And he's out in front of a hospital that he calls on or has called on or wants to call on, and he does a little video where he teaches something. He brings value to the listener, to the viewer. And his videos have been viewed tens of thousands of times. I've got another client who just started shooting videos. His first video was seen 5,000, I don't know what it is now. It was almost 6,000 when I talked to him a couple weeks ago. But now you say, well, but views, it doesn't mean people are wiring him money. No, but if he's connected to, this one gentleman's connected to 3,000 people online, his video gets served up to a percent of those, let's just say 10%. So a couple hundred people every time he shoots a video are seeing him. Or they may not even watch the video. And this is one thing that I think you need to be clear about here if you're going to start shooting video and doing content. Just because people don't watch the video does not mean they don't notice you. So if I'm in a hurry and I see something and I see a video by somebody, even if I don't watch it, it registers this person is an expert. This person's trying. This person's bringing value. So those 2 examples, in fact, both of their names are Mike, believe it or not, are just 2 examples of people who are just shooting video on LinkedIn, giving value, and they're starting to see thousands and thousands and thousands of views and start to get thousands of comments. So that's part of them building their personal brand. Here's 3 reasons you should do it. Number 1, it's helpful to your constituents. This is a good thing, not just for you, but for your prospects and clients. Now, why is that? Why do you suppose it's a good thing for you to build your personal brand? Well, I think it helps them to choose you. I think it helps you break through that clutter of all these people out there. And if somebody goes online like I did here a few months ago now, I was looking for a business coach to help me through some issues and problems I was having and just some mental blocks on some things. And I found this lady in UK, London, and I found her because when you search on coaches on the internet, there's 40 million people that come up, but her website was really attractive. She had a cool video on it. She seemed like the kind of person that I wanted to work with. She had clients who were kind of similar to me, and she offered a 20-minute free consultation where she got to know me and I got to know her, and we decided at the end whether it was a fit. So that's about brand. It's not about her trying to sell me anything. That's the opposite of brand. It's not about her pitching and convincing. It's about her creating a brand image based on who she is and a conversation. And then I didn't have to sort through the other 3 million coaches. I knew once I talked to her, I said, that you are my person. Let's go. Let's start. When can we begin? So it saved me so much time from looking through a bunch of people who were not going to be a good fit. So that's number one, is think about your customer. Think about your prospect. You having a brand helps them choose you. And isn't that what we're after? Or it helps them choose you, and then you have to decide whether you choose them. Number two, it forces you to think about your core value. You know, when I ask people, well, tell me about what is your value? What value do you bring to the market or to individual prospects? People struggle with that. It becomes, I always say that if I give you a minute to tell me what your value is, you'll do one of two things. You'll either be done in 7.5 seconds, because that'll be all you have. Well, we help people solve problems in the medical area. Well, that's not helpful to me. I don't know what the hell that means. Probably 1,000 companies help do that. Or you'll go on and on and on trying to get to the minute where you fill the minute, like I used to do with my essay books in English Lit. You just fill it, and then you think, well, that's good, I filled it. But it's not good if you just fill it. So I think you have to think about when you are trying to craft your message and trying to understand your value, going through some kind of a brand strategy process or framework helps you get clear about that. It helps you get clear, just like these things that I do here, or the LinkedIn videos that I do, or the YouTube, or anything that I write or podcast. When I sit down to do this, and by the way, I've got a framework here that I use, that I just have, what's the problem? What impact can the problem have if you don't get it fixed? What are some solution areas? It helps me think through that for you. And it helps me so that when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, I have thought through it. I've done my homework. I've done the whole, I always say it's like a mental enema. You have to get out what's clogging up the flow of ideas. It's a horrific thing, isn't it? But you have to get that out. And as you start to write and produce and publish and shoot video or audio or whatever you're doing for your brand, those ideas start to flow. And then you're walking around one day and say, oh, you know what? I could do a video on that because that's really interesting to me. And I've seen people struggle with that. I can do that video. In fact, I can do a 7-part series on that. You'll start to feel, these things will start to flow into you. So that's a byproduct. And sometimes I think we think, well, if we develop our brand, we'll sell more. Well, we might, but there's other byproducts of it too. And that is, number one, is you become more familiar with your core value. And the last thing is, people are starved for good brands in the personal space. People are starved to get away from the sales, the typical schlepper, seller, convincer. I was listening to a podcast the other day by a person who's does a lot of work in the millennial space, the 20s and even 30s and lower 40s. And in that 22 to 40-year-old person, if they fill out a lead form on a web, they don't want to get a phone call. They don't want to get a phone call from a salesperson who's going to pitch them. And so I think we've got to be mindful, we sales professionals have to be mindful that just because we think we're pretty sweet, pretty cool, pretty charming, not everybody does. And so if you're looking to break through and give the customer or the prospect some comfort that I am safe and that I am happy to talk to you and I'm not going to try to pitch you on anything, if you can give them that comfort, they will fill out the form or they'll make the call or they'll email you. So that's another reason I think your brand needs to be well thought out. And is your brand so comfortable to people that they want to reach out to you? And not to waste your time, but to work with you. And so that's yet another reason for branding is that it's not only the uniqueness, but are you making it safe and comfortable and convenient for people to access you? So what are your first steps here? If you want to do something about this, what are your first steps? I think the first step, as with anything, is to, well, first off, read that article, because I think you have to be really convinced and sold yourself on why you need to build this. And there's other reasons, I go into some more. But I think you need to be sold on yourself, because if you start this and you give it 30 days and then it doesn't produce any fruit, you're going to say, Caskey, you're full of crap. It didn't work, and so I gave it 30 days and that's it. You've got to give it more than that. I would suggest you give it a year. In fact, I'm creating a little worksheet for my clients. Like, if you're just starting this process, what does the progression look like? The first 30 days you do this. The second 30 days you do this. The next 90 days you do this. And so we take them from start to finish, from start up to mastery in a year's time. So if you're going to build your personal brand, devote a year to it. Devote a year to it. Now, it should be fun. It shouldn't be hard work. And I'm not saying devote full time. I'm saying, a couple hours a week. But I want you to just start. Start with an article. In fact, that's on my progression of learning. The first step is start with one article. If you have not written an article about your business, about trends you see in your business, about mistakes that your customers make when they are in pursuit or considering a purchase from you or from somebody in your space, just write an article. It's just a little buyer's guide on, here's 5 things you should consider when you're considering commercial real estate in Omaha, or 5 things you should consider prior to purchasing dental equipment, or whatever the thing is. Just 5 things to consider. If you just start there, that now positions you as an expert in your space. You're not pitching anything. This is not about you selling. It's about you advising and helping your prospect, which, remember, we talked about brand, generous, valuable, and adds to your well-being. There's a goodwill notion there too. So that's how I would start. And if you have any questions or comments on this video or anything that we do, make sure you put them on the stream. Make sure you go to billcaskey.com/game changer. It's the Sales Game Changer Guide, 10 strategies and 3 videos, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Once again, I wrote it, so of course I'm going to say that. But if you're inclined to work on yourself, that's awesome. If you're not, that's not awesome. So I'll see you let's see you tomorrow. And make sure you send a note to me in the stream. And if you have any questions, or if you have a topic you want me to cover, I'm happy to do it. Bye.